This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
And welcome to this edition of Talk Business and Politics. I'm joined by Representative Bruce Westerman. He represents the 4th Congressional District of Arkansas. Good to see you again.
Good to be here, Roby. Yeah. Always good to sit and visit with you.
Let's talk about monumental news, tail end of last week. Representative Dickey, who represented your 4th District. It's changed a little bit since he represented it, but the big bulk of it passes away at the age of 77. Tell me about your memories of Dickey and your experiences with Dickey.
Well, it's all fond memories. Of course, when he was in office, I admired him then. And then when I started running for office and getting more involved in politics, he was just a joy to be around. When I got to D.C., people would say, "Now, is that the seat Dickey had?" And they would always laugh. And
they didn't remember it was Tom Cotton's seat, did they?
They remembered
Dickey's
Dickey, and they had fun stories to tell about Jay. And you know, he was a strong man of faith. He was not shy about asking you if you knew where your final destination was.
Yeah.
And you know, I really admire Jay, and my heart goes out to his family, to Ted, and it's a big loss for the state of Arkansas. A true trailblazer and just a happy, good guy.
I actually had lunch with him and a small group of people right before Election Day on last November, and he was in good spirits and good storytelling spirits too.
Yeah.
We got some good ones that day. I think one of the things that Dickey did that people underestimate is he really did redefine this politician that comes back to his district almost every weekend and forced a lot of other lawmakers to do that. Just by shaming them into it.
And I didn't realize it about him until I got to D.C. And, you know, a lot of us stay in our office up there, and Dickey was the pioneer of that. The speaker still stays in his office.
That's right.
Because we're usually there 3, maybe 4 nights a week, and it just works out a lot better to come back to your office, read for hours, and get up and go to the gym and get ready for the next day. And Dickey was the one who started that.
He was the guy that started. Remember that he put the cot, or maybe it was a pull-out couch, I think, in his office is what he slept on there.
And I always hear about how persistent he was, and how well he represented the people of Arkansas in the 4th District. So.
Well, let's see if you're doing that. Let's test you on a couple of issues real quick.
Yeah.
Let's begin with health care. President Trump says this week there's going to be health care action in Congress. Is there going to be health care action in Congress?
I sure hope so. You know, I thought it would already have happened. Actually, I got word last week that we might get called back early, but of course that didn't happen. But I know there's been a lot of work going on, and a lot of it's member-to-member work. On the front end, we worked a lot with the White House as it came through the committees. I'm on the Budget Committee, and it was one of the final stops that the bill had to go through before we could get on the House floor. And we had enough time from when it was introduced to really go through it with a fine-tooth comb and find out some of the things that weren't in it that we wanted to see. And we got some stuff added in the Budget Committee. We got a big amendment added to it right before we left for the break that has to do with risk pools that'll help lower the premiums for everyone. And then I know there's been a lot of work on how you handle the essential health benefits. I think there'll be another amendment on it when we get back to D.C. I really hope we vote on it soon.
Do you think, well, there's some danger in that too, though, in that you don't get the details out to be able to describe to the public, to your constituents, what may be in it, and also there's not enough time to score how the fiscal impact may be on some of that stuff. And you're a numbers guy, so
right.
Is it possible, would you still vote for something that you think maybe hasn't cleared some of those hurdles of transparency just because you may know it better than the public knows it?
Well, I know it scored very well originally. And by putting the risk pools in there, I think that'll make it score even better. By putting work requirements in it like we did, by putting an option for states to do block grants, I think the things that we've done will help improve the score. And I'm not so sure they won't have it scored before we do the final.
It scored well in terms of what it would do in terms of reducing impact on budget. Did not score well in terms of access to health care. I mean, it was going to knock quite a few people off.
If access is the correct word. The CBO said that it would take 24 million people out of the healthcare market. And I don't necessarily fault CBO, but you got to understand the system they use. They're working off of the CBO baseline, which the CBO baseline said there should be 7 million more people getting health care right now than are currently getting them.
Even if it's 17 million, that's still a lot of people.
Then you got 5 to 10 million people that they project won't have health care because they're not being forced through the mandates that are being repealed. And actually, I think over time we're going to see better access to health care and certainly better quality. I'm hearing from providers now that, we talk about uncompensated care. It's people with insurance who can't afford to pay the deductible. That's what's causing a lot of the uncompensated care.
Well, some of that uncompensated care, though, from hospital executives I talked to say it has come down because there are more people with insurance coming in and utilizing it now, too. I mean,
right.
That's a reality.
It is, but I'm saying the new scenario we're in are people with health care that can't pay their deductibles, or people with health care that's not very usable. And I shouldn't say health care, health insurance is really what we're talking about. But even take CBO's big number, 24 million out of 324 million, that's about 7% of the population. The other 93% of the population has been affected by the Affordable Care Act. And I hear lots of stories of how those effects haven't been so positive.
All right, we got to end healthcare there. We could go on for about 30 minutes on that, but I do want to work
30 minutes.
We want to. I want to work on some infrastructure and potential tax reform. Do those things go hand in hand? Number one, and does healthcare have to happen first to get you some of the savings to do infrastructure and tax reform?
I think healthcare has to happen first because of the process. We're using the Budget Reconciliation Act, which if you think we don't have time to talk about healthcare, if you try to describe budget reconciliation, but essentially budget reconciliation allows us to get a bill through the Senate without 60 votes. And we're limited what we can put in that bill. We're using the 2017 reconciliation bill to do healthcare. To do taxes, we need to do the 2018 budget reconciliation. If we go ahead and pass the 2018 budget and with the reconciliation instructions, it negates the 2017 budget. So we lose that opportunity to do health care with a simple majority vote in the Senate. That's why there's such a big push to go ahead and get the health care done. And there's been a lot of, it's not going to be, we have to pass it to find out what's in it. This bill's been read, it's been amended. There's been a lot of work that's gone into it. And it didn't just start with this Congress.
You need to give me some cliff notes because I don't know what's in it. And I would like to understand it a little bit better.
We need to schedule about 2 hours and I go through it in detail.
No 2 hours with Bruce Westerman on budget numbers. No thanks. So lastly, infrastructure and taxes. So what do you want to see happen there? Do you think, how big of an infrastructure package do you think is possible? How big of a tax package do you think is possible?
It all depends. I think what happens in tax
such
reform.
A politician answer.
What happens in tax reform is what we're going to see ultimately happen with the infrastructure. And if we think healthcare is contentious to deal with, healthcare currently is about 20% of the GDP. It affects everyone in some form or fashion. Tax reform affects 100% of the economy. You wouldn't believe the people that have been through my office quizzing about tax reform. Is this going to be in there?
Your records now. You've just challenged me.
Yeah, they're all legitimate people coming in, but it's very complicated. We talk about simplifying taxes, and everybody wants to simplify taxes until you start getting into the details of what does it mean to simplify taxes.
So let me maybe
Most people want to do tax reform, but they want to make sure that their particular interests are protected in tax reform.
Let me ask you this question in the interest of time here. If healthcare, infrastructure, and taxes, if a package on those three items does not move through the Congress, that's a colossal failure for the GOP, which controls both chambers as well as the executive branch. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think healthcare especially. We have got to do something on healthcare. If we don't get healthcare done, it's going to be very hard to do tax reform, and it's going to be very hard to do an infrastructure package. And through the process, I think they build on each other, and that's why I feel confident something's going to happen on healthcare.
Next week.
Next week.
All right, we'll see. Representative Bruce
We
Westerman.
also have a budget that expires at the end of April too that we have to deal with when we get back. So,
and a debt ceiling eventually and all kinds of stuff.
And you're talking about big stuff when those things are the smaller things you're concerned with at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to have you back, though. We've got some satellite access to you. We'll have you back on in a couple of weeks, and we'll see how things are progressing.
Thanks, Roby.
All right. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
We're back with more right after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
Welcome back. Time to wrap up our question of the week from last week. Our question was, who was the first female elected, not appointed, but elected to statewide office in Arkansas? And our hint was she was appointed first. The correct answer is Hattie Caraway, who was appointed to fill out the seat of her husband, Thaddeus, who died in office in 1931. The subsequent year, Hattie Caraway was elected to the office in her own right, becoming the first female senator from Arkansas, a feat not replicated until Blanche Lincoln won the seat in 1998. She won another term, Hattie Caraway did, in 1938, but she was defeated in 1944 by long-serving Senator J. William Fulbright. Janet Harris of Conway is the winner of our $15 iTunes card for guessing the right answer. Congratulations, Janet. And that is all for today's program. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Roby Brock. Take care.